Welcome to Past People. To support my channel, please consider subscribing. The life and legacy of George IV, a figure of immense historical significance, is a tapestry woven with extraordinary tales and notable moments. From his opulent lifestyle and extravagant spending to his tumultuous marriages and prominent role as a regent, George IV's journey through the pages of history is a captivating narrative. And in this exploration we delve into the intricate details of his relationships, his impact on British society, and his enduring influence on the ages that bear his name, an emblem of the Georgians and a defining figure of the Regency era. George IV, during his time as a prince and later as a king, would never have experienced an ordinary existence. Nevertheless, bearing this in consideration, it becomes apparent that his life was remarkably unconventional. He held the dual titles of the Premier Gentleman of Europe and a subject of disdain and mockery. His reputation encompassed both his polished manners and captivating demeanour, alongside his excessive drinking, lavish spending habits, and scandalous romantic escapades. Born on the 12th of August 1762 as the eldest prodigy of King George III and Queen Charlotte, he was bestowed the status of Prince of Wales within a few days of his birth. Queen Charlotte would eventually bring forth a total of 15 offspring, of which 13 reached maturity. Yet among his numerous siblings, George held a special fondness for his younger brother, Prince Frederick, who came into the world just a year later. His relationship with his father was marked by tension, with George III frequently voicing criticism towards his son. The complex dynamic persisted as they both matured. For instance, in 1784, when Charles Fox, a politician who shared a contentious rapport with the king, returned to Parliament, Prince George enthusiastically supported him, proudly donning the buff and blue colours associated with Fox. Naturally, there existed ample reasons for George III's reproach. Prince George navigated his romantic entanglements with a complete lack of discretion. His amorous liaisons were numerous over the years, yet his involvement with Maria Fitzherbert stands out as either legendary or stuff of parental nightmares, particularly for those of royal lineage. The Royal Marriages Act of 1772 prohibited direct heirs to the throne from marrying before the age of 25 unless granted the monarch's permission. Marriages after the age of 25 could proceed without such consent, but only upon securing the approval of both parliamentary chambers. Given her commoner status in Roman Catholic faith, the twice-widowed Mrs. Fitzherbert was far from an acceptable candidate for royal matrimony. Despite these circumstances, the young prince remained resolute in his affection for her. After extracting a marriage promise from Mrs. Fitzherbert, an agreement obtained under duress, following a passionate episode in which George seemingly wounded himself, possibly exacerbating earlier wounds from a prior bloodletting by his physician. They secretly wed in 1785, and nonetheless the union lacked legal validity, rendering it void. Their romantic liaison endured, and their supposedly secret marriage became widely known. Finances also posed a significant concern. Prince George accumulated substantial debts throughout his extensive efforts to enhance, adorn, and furnish his residences in both London and Brighton. Additionally, his lavish entertaining, stable maintenance, and other princely expenses added to the financial strain. While he demonstrated significant support for the arts, and the Brighton Pavilion stands as a lasting testament, George's debts were nothing short of staggering. In 1795, he proceeded to enter into a legitimate marriage, and the arrangement involved his union with his cousin, Caroline of Brunswick, with the stipulation that his debts would be eradicated in return. However, their initial encounter presented an alarming scenario. Prince George immediately called for brandy, leaving Princess Caroline to question if his conduct was a perpetual state. She even voiced her disappointment in his appearance, and furthermore, George was intoxicated during their wedding ceremony. Predictably, the marriage descended into an utter catastrophe, prompting the couple to lead separate lives. Their relations failed to improve post-separation, and their offspring, Princess Charlotte, born in 1796, tragically did not inherit the throne. Her death during childbirth in 1817 triggered a profound national mourning. George's tenure as Prince Regent remains a defining aspect of his legacy. George III's first bout of apparent madness surfaced in 1788, and current beliefs suggest it may have been attributed to a hereditary ailment known as porphyria, yet he managed to recover without regency. However, after the passing of his youngest daughter, Princess Amelia, George III's health deteriorated once again in late 1810. Consequently, on the 5th of February 1811, Prince George was appointed regent. Initially, the Regency imposed limitations on George's authority, set to expire after a year. However, the king's recovery failed to materialize, leading to the extension of the Regency until George's accession to the throne in 1820. Notably, George IV's coronation the subsequent year remains etched in history due to an uninvited guest, his estranged wife, Queen Caroline. Upon becoming king, George IV vehemently refused to acknowledge her as queen, even excluding her name from the Book of Common Prayer. Nevertheless, Queen Caroline made an audacious appearance at Westminster Abbey, demanding entry, only to be rebuffed. Her demise followed less than a month later. By the late 1820s, George IV's health was rapidly deteriorating, compounded by his excessive alcohol consumption and long-standing battle with obesity. He ascended the throne at the age of 57 and passed away during the early hours of the 26th of June 1830. Tragically mirroring the discordant tone of his nuptials, the undertakers at his funeral were inebriated. Summing up a life as intricate and multifaceted as George IV's is inherently challenging. Nonetheless, his existence spanned a period of profound societal, political, and cultural transformations, during which he twice lent his name to eras, first as one of the Georgians and then as a representative of the Regency. King William IV. Among the contemporary British monarchs, a few receive as little attention as King William IV. However, upon delving into his biography, we discover a life characterized by daring, indulgence, and an anti-establishment attitude that seems incompatible with his royal position. Today we will examine William IV, the most eccentric individual to ever occupy the British throne. But before we proceed, make sure to subscribe to Past People. And after that, leave a comment suggesting other unorthodox rulers that you'd like to learn about. Now let's explore the story of a man who accidentally became king. William Henry, a member of the Hanoverian dynasty, was born on the 21st of August 1765. Although he eventually ascended to the throne as King William IV, his chances seemed slim in the beginning. At that time, his father, King George III, was in his 20s and had only begun what would become a reign lasting nearly 60 years. Moreover, George III had two older sons, George and Frederick, who stood ahead of William in the line of succession. From William's perspective, there was no real pressure on him to conform while growing up. He enjoyed the freedom to lead a life wholly unsuited for a future king, and he embraced it. At the age of 13, William enlisted into the Royal Navy, and while one might assume that a privileged prince might undertake a cushy assignment close to home, William ventured into war for his nation at an age when most individuals were in 8th grade. He served in North America and the Caribbean, even participating in the Battle of Cape St. Vincent in 1780. Additionally, he forged a close relationship with the renowned Admiral Horatio Nelson, who achieved crucial victories in the Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars. When William eventually ascended to the throne several decades later, his 12 years of service earned him the moniker of the Sailor King. By the time William reached his teenage years and joined the Royal Navy, the United States had declared its independence and the Revolutionary War was in progress. William served in New York, making him the sole member of the British royal family to set foot on American soil during the Revolution. It's an impressive distinction for a young man who had only just started shaving, and of course there were drawbacks. William understood that his princely status made him an exceptionally valuable target for the rebel forces. Yet despite the obvious danger, he took pleasure in strolling around the city unaccompanied. Perhaps being captured for ransom was on the bucket list. Rumors about these excursions eventually reached General George Washington, the Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army and future face of the $1 bill. Washington promptly sanctioned a plot to seize the adolescent prince, and in a letter to his accomplice he expressed enthusiasm, stating that the boldness evident in your plan to surprise Prince William Henry and Admiral Digby in their quarters deserves praise. In other words, Operation Abduct the Posh Teenager was a go. Washington authorized them to execute the plan in any manner and at the opportune time. But he cautioned against showing disrespect or harm to the prince or admiral. Just because it's a kidnapping doesn't mean it has to be impolite. The message was clear. Washington's determination to capture Prince William knew no bounds. He was adamant about bringing the young prince to him by any means necessary. Yet fortune favoured William, as the redcoats caught wind of the audacious plot and promptly assigned guards to him, ensuring his safety. But William, undeterred by the looming threat of Washington's gung-ho abduction plan, found a clever solution. He simply brought the guards along with him on his excursions around the city, outsmarting Washington's every move. William's naval career spanned an impressive 12 years, although naval career, in this case, often meant revelling in merriment and mischief while in close proximity to the water. He became well known for his penchant for drinking and causing trouble during his time in the Navy. Among his less regal exploits was a drunken brawl in Gibraltar that made headlines. Despite his rowdy reputation, William decided to retire from active service in 1790 at the age of 25. However, retirement from the Navy did not mean retirement from his sailor-like drinking habits. And when war erupted between Britain and France in 1790, William's thirst for adventure resurfaced, and he repeatedly sought command of a ship. He delivered a series of speeches in the House of Lords, some of which were well received, while others caused great concern for being visibly drunk. These erratic episodes, coupled with William's recent misfortune of falling down a flight of stairs and breaking his arm, led the king to firmly believe that William should not return to the Navy. Despite being denied the opportunity to command a ship, William remained eager to be involved in the action, persistently raising the subject whenever the British found themselves embroiled in conflict. However, the king and the Admiralty continued to turn him down, citing his personal issues as a hindrance. Undeterred, William sought alternative ways to be close to the action. In 1813, he witnessed the bombardment of the Antwerp and atop a church steeple, risking his life as shells rained down upon him. It is even rumoured that he received a contusion from the explosion of a shell, though some speculate that he may have even caused the explosion himself. According to a modern account, during the final attack, a bullet pierced through his coat, narrowly missing him. Excluded from the Navy, William decided to venture into politics, a popular career choice for those born into a royal family. While most individuals experience a high-profile dismissal only to find themselves working mundane jobs, William took a different path. He served in the House of Lords, where he expressed opinions that in hindsight did not age very well. For instance, he staunchly opposed the abolishment of slavery in British colonies, arguing that enslaved individuals in North America and the Caribbean were content in their state of humble happiness. His views on this matter were undeniably problematic. However, not all of William's beliefs were steeped in authoritarianism. He also advocated for progressive laws concerning religious freedom and the treatment of adultery, showcasing a more enlightened side of his character. Despite his tumultuous reputation, William managed to serve a brief but eventful stint as Lord High Admiral in 1827. However, his disdain for authority clashed with the Admiralty officers he was required to work with. The conflicts reached a tipping point when William decided to make a dramatic statement. Instead of storming off to the pub, he took matters into his own hands and commanded a squadron of ships, disappearing for a whopping 10 days. As both Lord High Admiral and a prince, he possessed the audacity to undertake such a bold move. King George IV, his brother, had no choice but to request his resignation from the position. In his personal life, William had a long-standing relationship with an Irish actress and comedian known as Dorothea Jordan. Although they never married, their love knew no bounds as they welcomed 10 children together. However, their circumstances changed when Princess Charlotte of Wales, the daughter of William's elder brother George, tragically passed away in 1811. This sudden loss meant that King George III had no legitimate grandchildren, thereby placing the burden on William and his brothers to produce an heir. As a result, William and Dorothea separated, and he went on to marry Princess Adeline of Saxe-Meiningen, a woman that was half of his age. While they were unable to conceive a surviving heir, they reportedly enjoyed a blissful marriage. In 1820, King George III, who had reigned for nearly 60 years, passed away, and at this point his 2 eldest sons, George and Frederick, were approaching their 60s and weren't in the best of health. Additionally, they had no heirs to continue the line of succession, and when Frederick died in 1827, William unexpectedly found himself as the heir presumptive. The realization that he had a legitimate chance at becoming king prompted him to reduce his drinking and take up his beloved long walks again. With George Washington long gone, William no longer feared for his previous abduction attempts, and upon the passing of King George IV in 1830, William ascended the throne before becoming the monarch of the United Kingdom. At the age of 64, King William IV became the oldest king to be crowned in British history, a record that he held for quite some time, until recently broken by the coronation of King Charles III at the age of 73 on the 6th of May 2023. Now, when people envision the British royal family, the iconic Buckingham Palace comes to mind. However, it may surprise many to know that there was a time when a king wished to give it away. That king was none other than William himself, who attempted to disown the property on more than one occasion. William's informal nature as a monarch, coupled with his seafaring background, likely influenced this unconventional approach. King William IV, the unconventional ruler of the British throne, had a unique approach to royal living. Unlike his predecessors, he refused to reside in Buckingham Palace, finding the grandeur and formality of the place discomforting. His aversion led him to offer the palace to the British Army as high-class barracks, but that plan didn't materialise. Undeterred, he then attempted to transform Buckingham Palace into the new Parliament after the previous Houses of Parliament were destroyed in a fire in 1834. However, Parliament politely declined his proposal, leaving his vision unrealised. Despite his relatively short reign of only 7 years, William IV had a crucial objective in mind: to outlive his niece, Princess Victoria, until she had reached the age of 18. Victoria, the daughter of William's deceased younger brother Edward, held the key to the succession. While William held affection for Victoria, he held a strong dislike for her mother, the Duchess of Kent. Driven by spite towards the Duchess, William was determined to ensure that Victoria would never be under her mother's regency. His tenacity paid off as he managed to survive long enough to witness Victoria assume the throne just 1 month after her 18th birthday, marking the beginning of the renowned Victorian era, the era adored by steampunk enthusiasts. So what are your thoughts on William IV? Was he a charming scoundrel or a daring and impulsive individual? Queen Victoria's father. Prince Edward, Duke of Kent and Strathearn, was a remarkable figure in British history. Born on the 2nd of November 1767, he was the fourth son and fifth child of King George III, but his legacy extends far beyond his royal lineage. In 1799, Prince Edward was bestowed with the prestigious titles of Duke of Kent and Strathearn, as well as Earl of Dublin. This marked a turning point in his life, propelling him into positions of great importance and influence. Shortly thereafter, he assumed command as a general and became the commander-in-chief of British forces in the maritime provinces of North America. This strategic appointment showcased his military prowess and leadership skills. The Duke's journey took an adventurous turn when he became the first member of the royal family to reside in North America for an extended period. From 1791 to 1800, he immersed himself in the vibrant cultures of the New World, fostering a unique understanding of the land and its people. In fact, in 1794 he achieved yet another groundbreaking milestone by becoming the first prince to set foot in the United States, embarking on a remarkable journey from Lower Canada to Boston on foot. During his time in North America, Prince Edward made an important contribution to the cultural and linguistic fabric of the region. On the 27th of June 1792, he coined the term Canadian to encompass both French and English settlers in Upper and Lower Canada. This momentous act of linguistic diplomacy aimed to bridge the divide between the two groups, and it occurred during a riot at a polling station in Charlesburg, Lower Canada. Consequently, he earned the enduring title of the Father of the Canadian Crown, symbolizing his profound impact on the development of Canada. Prince Edward's illustrious career continued to flourish upon his return to Europe, and in 1802 he was appointed Governor of Gibraltar, a position he held until his untimely death in 1820. Throughout his life he demonstrated a deep commitment to the armed forces, culminating in his appointment as Field Marshal of the Forces in 1805. Although Prince Edward's time on earth was tragically cut short, his legacy endured through his only child, Victoria. 17 years after his passing, Victoria ascended to the throne and became the iconic Queen of the United Kingdom. Thus his spirit lives on, forever intertwined with the pages of history. Prince Edward made his grand entrance into the world on the 2nd of November 1767 as a cherished offspring of King George III and Queen Charlotte. Being fourth in line to the British throne, his birth held great significance for the royal family and the nation. Coincidentally, he was named after his late uncle, the Duke of York in Albany, who had recently passed away and was laid to rest at Westminster Abbey on the eve of Edward's arrival. The young prince received his baptism on the 30th of November 1767 in a solemn ceremony that united him with his godparents. These esteemed individuals included the hereditary Prince of Brunswick-Lunenburg, who stood as a proxy for his paternal uncle through marriage, the Earl of Hertford, the Earl of Huntingdon, and who acted on behalf of Duke Charles of Mecklenburg-Strelitz, Edward's maternal uncle, and the hereditary Princess of Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel, represented by a proxy due to her absence. Additionally, the Landgravine of Hesse-Kassel, Edward's paternal grandfather's sister, found her presence replaced by the Duchess of Argyll, who served as Lady of the Bedchamber to the Queen. This baptism marked a significant moment in Prince Edward's early life, as it connected him to a network of influential figures and established his place within the royal lineage. Prince Edward embarked on a distinguished military career that spanned continents and made a lasting impact on history. He began his training in Hanover in 1785, but changed plans upon the advice of the Duke of York, pursuing military education in Hanover. At 18, he became a brevet colonel in the British Army and continued his education in Geneva. He joined the influential Masonic Lodge de l'Union. In 1789, Prince Edward became Colonel of the Royal Fusiliers. However, missteps led to his exile to Gibraltar as a regular officer. In 1791, he transferred to Quebec, becoming the first royal to tour Upper Canada. Prince Edward rose to Major General and displayed courage during the battle. And in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where he served as Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Navy's North American Station, he shaped the city's military defences and transformed a residence into an enchanting prince's lodge. After a fall from his horse in 1798, he returned to England and was granted prestigious titles, along with the role of Commander-in-Chief of British forces in North America. Appointed Governor of Gibraltar, his strict discipline caused a mutiny, but he refused to return to England until his successor arrived. He was promoted to Field Marshal and appointed Ranger of Hampton Court Park, and Prince Edward balanced military discipline with friendliness, supporting social experiments and advocating for Catholic emancipation. Prince Edward's career showcased his passion for military service, his impact on various regions, and his commitment to social causes. Following the untimely death of Princess Charlotte of Wales in 1817, the British royal succession faced uncertainty. The Prince Regent George IV and his brother Frederick, Duke of York and Albany, were estranged from their wives and had no legitimate surviving children. The king's daughters were childless, and his unmarried sons rushed to secure marriages to ensure an heir to the throne. Among them was Prince Edward, Duke of Kent. At the age of 50, Prince Edward sought a suitable marriage partner and became engaged to Princess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, the sister-in-law of his late niece, Princess Charlotte. The couple married on the 29th of May 1818 at a palace in Coburg and had a second ceremony on the 11th of July 1818 at Kew Palace in Surrey. Princess Victoria was the daughter of Francis, Duke of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, and the sister of Prince Leopold, who had been married to Princess Charlotte. She was a widow, having been previously married to Emmett Carl, 2nd Prince of Lenegan, with whom she had 2 children. On the 24th of May 1819, the Duke and Duchess of Kent welcomed their only child, a daughter named Alexandrina Victoria. The Duke took great pride in his daughter, even predicting that she would one day become the Queen of the United Kingdom. Throughout his life, the Duke of Kent had various reported mistresses. While in Geneva, he had relationships with Adeline Dubus and Anne Marie. Madame de Saint Laurent, also known as Julie de Saint Laurent, accompanied him to Canada in 1791 and remained by his side for 28 years until his marriage to Princess Victoria in 1818. Despite claims of descendants from these relationships, thorough research has confirmed that no children were born from any of these unions. Prince Edward's marriage to Princess Victoria solidified his place in the royal succession and eventually led to the birth of Queen Victoria, one of the most significant monarchs in British history. In his later life and in 1801, the Duke of Kent acquired Castle Hill Lodge in Ealing, West London, purchasing it from Maria Fitzherbert. Architect James Wyatt was enlisted to enhance the property, and over £100,000, or £8.1 million in 2021, was invested in its renovation. Notably, the Duke's neighbours from 1815 to 1817 were John Quincy Adams, the future US President, and his English wife Louisa. Adams documented attending church with the Duke of Kent and hearing a sermon by Dr. Crane in August 1815. After the birth of Princess Victoria in 1819, the Duke and Duchess sought a cost-effective residence to manage their significant debts. They opted to lease Walbrook Cottage, situated by the seaside in Sidmouth, Devon. They intended to keep a low profile during their stay. Tragically, the Duke of Kent succumbed to pneumonia on the 23rd of January 1820 at Walbrook Cottage in Sidmouth. He was laid to rest in St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, and his passing occurred just 6 days before the death of his father, King George III, and less than a year after the birth of his daughter. As the Duke predeceased his father and elder brothers, and none of his elder brothers had surviving legitimate children, his daughter Victoria ascended to the throne following the demise of her uncle King William IV in 1837. She went on to reign until 1901. In 1829, the Duke's former aide acquired Castle Hill Lodge from the Duchess in an attempt to alleviate her financial burdens. The debts were ultimately settled after Victoria assumed the throne and gradually paid them off from her own income. Queen Victoria's father. Prince Edward, Duke of Kent and Strathearn, was a remarkable figure in British history. Born on the 2nd of November 1767, he was the fourth son and fifth child of King George III, but his legacy extends far beyond his royal lineage. In 1799, Prince Edward was bestowed with the prestigious titles of Duke of Kent and Strathearn, as well as Earl of Dublin. This marked a turning point in his life, propelling him into positions of great importance and influence. Shortly thereafter, he assumed command as a general and became the commander-in-chief of British forces in the maritime provinces of North America. This strategic appointment showcased his military prowess and leadership skills. The Duke's journey took an adventurous turn when he became the first member of the royal family to reside in North America for an extended period. From 1791 to 1800, he immersed himself in the vibrant cultures of the New World, fostering a unique understanding of the land and its people. In fact, in 1794 he achieved yet another groundbreaking milestone by becoming the first prince to set foot in the United States, embarking on a remarkable journey from Lower Canada to Boston on foot. During his time in North America, Prince Edward made an important contribution to the cultural and linguistic fabric of the region. On the 27th of June 1792, he coined the term Canadian to encompass both French and English settlers in Upper and Lower Canada. This momentous act of linguistic diplomacy aimed to bridge the divide between the two groups, and it occurred during a riot at a polling station in Charlesburg, Lower Canada. Consequently, he earned the enduring title of the Father of the Canadian Crown, symbolizing his profound impact on the development of Canada. Prince Edward's illustrious career continued to flourish upon his return to Europe, and in 1802 he was appointed Governor of Gibraltar, a position he held until his untimely death in 1820. Throughout his life he demonstrated a deep commitment to the armed forces, culminating in his appointment as Field Marshal of the Forces in 1805. Although Prince Edward's time on earth was tragically cut short, his legacy endured through his only child, Victoria. 17 years after his passing, Victoria ascended to the throne and became the iconic Queen of the United Kingdom. Thus his spirit lives on, forever intertwined with the pages of history. Prince Edward made his grand entrance into the world on the 2nd of November 1767 as a cherished offspring of King George III and Queen Charlotte. Being fourth in line to the British throne, his birth held great significance for the royal family and the nation. Coincidentally, he was named after his late uncle, the Duke of York and Albany, who had recently passed away and was laid to rest at Westminster Abbey on the eve of Edward's arrival. The young prince received his baptism on the 30th of November 1767 in a solemn ceremony that united him with his godparents. These esteemed individuals included the hereditary Prince of Brunswick-Lunenburg, who stood as a proxy for his paternal uncle through marriage, the Earl of Hertford, the Earl of Huntingdon, and who acted on behalf of Duke Charles of Mecklenburg-Strelitz, Edward's maternal uncle, and the hereditary Princess of Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel, represented by a proxy due to her absence. Additionally, the Landgravine of Hesse-Kassel, Edward's paternal grandfather's sister, found her presence replaced by the Duchess of Argyll, who served as Lady of the Bedchamber to the Queen. This baptism marked a significant moment in Prince Edward's early life, as it connected him to a network of influential figures and established his place within the royal lineage. Prince Edward embarked on a distinguished military career that spanned continents and made a lasting impact on history. He began his training in Hanover in 1785, but changed plans upon the advice of the Duke of York, pursuing military education in Hanover. At 18, he became a brevet colonel in the British Army and continued his education in Geneva. He joined the influential Masonic Lodge de l'Union. In 1789, Prince Edward became Colonel of the Royal Fusiliers. However, missteps led to his exile to Gibraltar as a regular officer. In 1791, he transferred to Quebec, becoming the first royal to tour Upper Canada. Prince Edward rose to Major General and displayed courage during the battle. And in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where he served as Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Navy's North American Station, he shaped the city's military defences and transformed a residence into an enchanting prince's lodge. After a fall from his horse in 1798, he returned to England and was granted prestigious titles, along with the role of Commander-in-Chief of British forces in North America. Appointed Governor of Gibraltar, his strict discipline caused a mutiny, but he refused to return to England until his successor arrived. He was promoted to Field Marshal and appointed Ranger of Hampton Court Park, and Prince Edward balanced military discipline with friendliness, supporting social experiments and advocating for Catholic emancipation. Prince Edward's career showcased his passion for military service, his impact on various regions, and his commitment to social causes. Following the untimely death of Princess Charlotte of Wales in 1817, the British royal succession faced uncertainty. The Prince Regent George IV and his brother Frederick, Duke of York and Albany, were estranged from their wives and had no legitimate surviving children. The king's daughters were childless, and his unmarried sons rushed to secure marriages to ensure an heir to the throne. Among them was Prince Edward, Duke of Kent. At the age of 50, Prince Edward sought a suitable marriage partner and became engaged to Princess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, the sister-in-law of his late niece, Princess Charlotte. The couple married on the 29th of May 1818 at a palace in Coburg, and had a second ceremony on the 11th of July 1818 at Kew Palace in Surrey. Princess Victoria was the daughter of Francis, Duke of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, and the sister of Prince Leopold, who had been married to Princess Charlotte. She was a widow, having been previously married to Emmett Carl, 2nd Prince of Leningen, with whom she had 2 children. On the 24th of May 1819, the Duke and Duchess of Kent welcomed their only child, a daughter named Alexandrina Victoria. The Duke took great pride in his daughter, even predicting that she would one day become the Queen of the United Kingdom. Throughout his life, the Duke of Kent had various reported mistresses. While in Geneva, he had relationships with Adeline Dubus and Anne Marie. Madame de Saint Laurent, also known as Julie de Saint Laurent, accompanied him to Canada in 1791 and remained by his side for 28 years until his marriage to Princess Victoria in 1818. Despite claims of descendants from these relationships, thorough research has confirmed that no children were born from any of these unions. Prince Edward's marriage to Princess Victoria solidified his place in the royal succession and eventually led to the birth of Queen Victoria, one of the most significant monarchs in British history. In his later life and in 1801, the Duke of Kent acquired Castle Hill Lodge in Ealing, West London, purchasing it from Maria Fitzherbert. Architect James Wyatt was enlisted to enhance the property, and over £100,000, or £8.1 million in 2021, was invested in its renovation. Notably, the Duke's neighbours from 1815 to 1817 were John Quincy Adams, the future US President, and his English wife Louisa. Adams documented attending church with the Duke of Kent and hearing a sermon by Dr. Crane in August 1815. After the birth of Princess Victoria in 1819, the Duke and Duchess sought a cost-effective residence to manage their significant debts. They opted to lease Walbrook Cottage, situated by the seaside in Sidmouth, Devon. They intended to keep a low profile during their stay. Tragically, the Duke of Kent succumbed to pneumonia on the 23rd of January 1820 at Walbrook Cottage in Sidmouth. He was laid to rest in St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, and his passing occurred just 6 days before the death of his father, King George III, and less than a year after the birth of his daughter. As the Duke predeceased his father and elder brothers, and none of his elder brothers had surviving legitimate children, his daughter Victoria ascended to the throne following the demise of her uncle King William IV in 1837. She went on to reign until 1901. In 1829, the Duke's former aide acquired Castle Hill Lodge from the Duchess in an attempt to alleviate her financial burdens. The debts were ultimately settled after Victoria assumed the throne and gradually paid them off from her own income. The death of Prince Alfred. Prince Alfred of Great Britain was the youngest son and 14th child of King George III and Queen Charlotte. Born on the 22nd of September 1780 at Windsor Castle, he belonged to the House of Hanover. Unfortunately, Alfred's health was never robust, and his condition worsened after receiving a smallpox vaccine in 1782. Tragically, he passed away at a very young age of only 2, causing profound grief for the royal family. Only 6 months later, his brother, Prince Octavius, also succumbed to an early death, compounding their sorrow. Throughout his life, Prince Alfred struggled with various health issues. His birth brought happiness to his family, especially to his older sister, Princess Sophia, who affectionately referred to him as her grandson. However, from the beginning, Alfred's frailty was evident, as he experienced skin eruptions and a persistent cough. At the time of Prince Alfred's life, smallpox was a dreaded disease, posing a threat to both royalty and commoners alike. Unfortunately, medical advancements were lacking, making it a frequently fatal affliction. Queen Charlotte, Alfred's mother, strongly advocated for vaccines and had her royal children undergo the procedure. Vaccines gained popularity in Britain when King George II's daughters, who were then the Prince of Wales, underwent the process in 1721. In 1782, Prince Alfred himself was vaccinated against smallpox, but the procedure had a detrimental impact on his health. He suffered eruptions on his face and eyelids, as well as chest troubles due to the inoculation. Seeking recovery, he was taken to Deal in company of his governess, Lady Charlotte Finch, and nurse, Mrs. Cheveley. They hoped that the sea air, water bathing, and horseback riding would improve his condition. Lady Charlotte shared in letters to her friend Mary Hamilton that the sea bathing seemed to agree with the young prince, and his appetite was good, indicating potential improvement. During his stay at Deal, Prince Alfred's charm and good nature endeared him to many, and despite some signs of progress, he continued to experience outbreaks and chest issues. By early July, his condition began to improve, but later that month it deteriorated to the point where he could no longer walk. Consequently, in August, Prince Alfred, Lady Charlotte, and Mrs. Cheveley returned to Windsor Castle due to his worsening condition. Medical consultations were held, and it was concluded that the young boy had only weeks to live. Tragically, Prince Alfred passed away on the 20th of August between 4 and 5 in the afternoon at Lower Lodge, Windsor Great Park, just a month shy of his 2nd birthday. His death deeply saddened the royal family and left a lasting impact on all that knew him. Despite not following mourning traditions for royal children younger than 7, Prince Alfred's parents were deeply affected by his passing. Lady Charlotte reported that Queen Charlotte cried profusely and was greatly hurt by the loss, and the king shared in her grief as well. In August, the Queen expressed her affectionate gratitude to Lady Charlotte for taking care of little Alfred by gifting her a locket containing a lock of his hair, adorned with pearls and amethysts. Prince Alfred was laid to rest at Westminster Abbey on the 27th of August, but his remains were later moved to the Royal Vault in St George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, in February 1820. Tragically, 6 months after Alfred's passing, his 4-year-old elder brother, Octavius, also succumbed to smallpox after vaccination, further devastating the king. Although both losses were heart-wrenching, the king was particularly impacted by Octavius's death, expressing that he would have also died if it had been Octavius instead of Alfred. George III continued to mourn the deaths of his sons, and even a year later, after Prince Alfred's passing, seeing his posthumous portrait in a family painting by Thomas Gainsborough brought tears to his 3 elder sisters, with the king and queen visibly moved as well. In 1812, during one of his bouts of madness, King George had imaginary conversations with his 2 youngest sons. Prince Alfred was the first of George III and Queen Charlotte's children to pass away in 1782, while his older sister Princess Mary, the last survivor of their 15 children, passed away in 1857. Interestingly, among their first 14 children, Alfred was unique in never having the opportunity to have an older sibling during his lifetime, as the only child, younger than him, was born after his death. The heartbreaking death of Prince Octavius. Meet Prince Octavius of Great Britain, a captivating and endearing young soul who graced the world on the 23rd of February 1779. Born as the 8th son of King George III and Queen Charlotte, his name, derived from Latin, proudly symbolized his position as the 8th son. The kingdom rejoiced, and even the House of Lords sent heartfelt congratulations to the royal family upon his birth. Blessed with innocence and a sweet disposition, Octavius enchanted everybody around him. His godparents, including distinguished members of royal circles, showered him with love during his christening at St James's Palace. As a young child, he showed remarkable promise and was adored by his father, King George III, who cherished his youngest sons, Octavius and Alfred, dearly. King George III broke the norms of his time, openly expressing affection and indulgence towards his children. He revelled in moments of joy, carrying Octavius in his arms and doting on his other siblings during family gatherings. Observers were moved by the king's warmth and the unique way he and Queen Charlotte raised their children. One touching encounter was recounted at the Queen's Lodge in Windsor, where Octavius playfully interacted with a friend of the king, Mrs. Delaney, capturing hearts with his innocence and affection. Tragically, fate had other plans for young Octavius, and at the tender age of 4 he fell victim to illness shortly after being vaccinated against smallpox. His untimely death left his parents devastated, and King George III in particular was haunted by hallucinations of his beloved youngest sons. Prince Octavius' short but captivating life remains an enduring part of Great Britain's history, a testament to the love and affection that flourished within the royal family during those memorable days. In the enchanting tapestry of the royal family, young Octavius found his closest bond with Princess Sophia, his sister and kindred spirit, who affectionately referred to him as her son. Together they embarked on delightful escapades with their siblings, Elizabeth and Edward, journeying to the picturesque shores of Eastbourne on the Sussex coast. There, amid the invigorating sea breeze, Octavius revelled in the joy of summer, creating cherished memories that would linger in his heart forever. As time unfolded, Octavius welcomed the arrival of his younger brother, Prince Alfred, and embraced his newfound role as an elder sibling when he was just 19 months old. But fate dealt a cruel blow when young Alfred's life was tragically cut short on the 20th of August 1782, leaving Octavius bereft of his beloved brother once more. The grief-stricken King George, expressing his profound sorrow, confided that had it been Octavius who passed away, the pain would have been unbearable. Despite his tender age, Octavius was a remarkable child and an endearing nature that captivated all who knew him. Known for his exceptional docility and an abundance of good-natured charm, he became the joy of the entire household. Even at the tender age of 5, Octavius stood out as an extraordinary individual, displaying qualities that endeared him to all. Among the illustrious progeny of the royal lineage, Octavius shone brightly, earning accolades as one of the finest and most beloved members of the family. His radiant spirit and unforgettable presence left an undeniable mark on the hearts of those fortunate enough to witness the essence of this very cherished prince. After the heart-wrenching loss of Prince Alfred, a beautiful portrait titled The Apotheosis of Prince Octavius immortalized the young prince alongside heavenly angels. The siblings Octavius and Sophia, 6 months after Alfred's passing, were taken to Kew Palace for a smallpox vaccine. While Sophia recovered unscathed, fate dealt a cruel hand to Octavius and he fell very ill, ultimately succumbing on the fateful evening of the 3rd of May 1783 at the tender age of only 4. Lady Charlotte Finch, the governess of the royal children, lamented that hope for his recovery had vanished from the moment that he fell ill. Tragically, Octavius became the last member of the British royal family to contract smallpox, and despite assertions from the royal household that his death was not linked to the vaccine, speculations still lingered, while historical accounts varied on the cause. Octavius was laid to rest beside his brother Alfred at Westminster Abbey on the 10th of May, a sorrowful occasion that deeply affected Queen Charlotte, who was carrying her youngest child, Princess Amelia, at the time. The grief that followed Octavius' passing was profound. King George III, who adored his children dearly, was devastated, and the court and caretakers were equally distraught. The king's anguish was evident when he proclaimed, "There will be no heaven for me if Octavius is not there." Artist Thomas Gainsborough painting of the royal family, including Octavius, brought tears to the eyes of his sisters and touched their parents' hearts. Octavius's untimely departure haunted King George, who imagined conversations with his beloved departed sons, even during his bouts of madness in later years. In one heartbreaking incident during a fit of madness, the king mistook a pillow for Octavius, a poignant reminder of the profound grief that forever lingered. The legacy of Prince Octavius, his radiant spirit, and the love that he kindled among his family and subjects endure as cherished memories in the annals of British history. Welcome to Past People. To support my channel, please subscribe. The life of the dashing Duke, Prince Adolphus of Cambridge. Meet the charismatic Prince Adolphus, Duke of Cambridge, a man of numerous accolades and remarkable lineage. Born on the 24th of February in 1774 at the splendid Buckingham House, which was fondly referred to as the Queen's House at that time, he emerged as the 10th child and 7th son of King George III and Queen Charlotte of the UK. Amongst his many distinctions, he held the illustrious title of Duke of Cambridge from 1801 until his passing. Additionally, he assumed the role of Viceroy of Hanover on behalf of his esteemed brothers George IV and William IV. Intriguingly, Prince Adolphus's life took an enchanting turn in 1818 when he wed Princess Augusta of Hesse-Kassel. Their union bore the fruits of love in the form of 3 wonderful children, George, Augusta, and Mary Adelaide. Prince Adolphus's early days were nothing short of captivating. His baptism, a splendid affair that took place on the 24th of March 1774 in the Grand Great Council Chamber at St James's Palace, was a notable event. Frederick Cornwallis, the Archbishop of Canterbury, officiated the ceremony with a distinguished assembly of godparents, including John Adolphus of Saxe-Gotha-Altenburg, Landgrave Charles of Hesse-Kassel, and Princess Wilhelmina of Orange, who all played their roles with great grandeur. Adolphus's education was a fascinating journey as well. He embarked on his scholarly pursuits at home under the careful guidance of tutors until the arrival of summer 1786. At that point, his educational voyage led him to the prestigious University of Göttingen in Germany, accompanied by his brothers Prince Ernest and Prince Augustus. This trio of royal scholars would go on to leave an undeniable mark on history. His heroic journey through battlefields. Prince Adolphus, a man of royal lineage and unyielding valor, embarked on a military career that unfolded like an epic tale. His honorary position as Colonel-in-Chief of the Hanoverian Guard Foot Regiment from 1789 to 1803 marked the beginning of his martial journey. However, his true martial prowess began to shine in 1791 when he and his brother Prince Ernest journeyed to Hanover under the tutelage of the distinguished Hanoverian commander, Field Marshal Wilhelm von Weizsäcker. The baptism of fire came swiftly during the Flanders campaign in 1793, where Adolphus tasted the thrill of Battle of Famous on the 23rd of May. The pages of history also bear witness to his indomitable spirit, for he was wounded and captured at the Battle of Hondscoot on the 6th of September, only to be swiftly rescued from the clutches of the enemy. Promoted to the rank of Hanoverian General Major, Prince Adolphus demonstrated his mettle by commanding a Hessian brigade under his paternal great-uncle, General Johann Ludwig, during the autumn of 1794. He further etched his legacy by leading the Hanoverian Guards during their strategic retreat through Holland. Remaining resolute in Germany, Adolphus assumed command of the brigade within the Corps of Observation from the 22nd of October 1796 to the 12th of January 1798. His military accolades also extended to the British Army, where he became a colonel in 1794 and earned the rank of lieutenant general on the 24th of August 1798. In a remarkable twist, Adolphus's name became synonymous with valor as he attended the founding of Adolfsdorf in 1800, a village nestled in the electorate of Hanover, an act that immortalized his legacy. The tumultuous War of the Second Coalition against France presented another challenging chapter in Prince Adolphus's life. In 1801 he embarked on a journey to Berlin, striving to prevent the impending Prussian occupation of the electorate. However, despite his tireless efforts, the demands of France prevailed, leading to the unfortunate commandeering of Hanoverian troops, Demarcation Army. In 1803 he assumed the mantle of senior army commander, but faced a bleak situation with advancing French forces on one side and 24,000 Prussian soldiers on the other. Unwilling to engage in discussions of capitulation, he handed over his command and withdrew to England, leaving behind a plan to recruit more soldiers in Hanover, which regrettably failed. Nonetheless, adversity only fueled Prince Adolphus's determination, and in 1803 he was appointed as Commander-in-Chief of the prestigious King's German Legion. His unwavering commitment earned him the esteemed rank of Field Marshal in 1813. Prince Adolphus's military endeavours extended to his roles as Colonel-in-Chief of the Coldstream Regiment of Foot Guards and on the 60th Regiment of Foot, a testament of his unwavering dedication to the armed forces. Furthermore, after the fall of Napoleon's empire, he took on the responsibilities of military governor of Hanover from the 4th of November 1813 to the 24th of October 1816, followed by the position of Governor-General of Hanover from the 24th of October 1860 to the 20th of June 1837, during which he also served as Viceroy from the 22nd of February 1831. His promotion to Field Marshal on the 26th of November 1813 crowned his military achievements. A true patron of the Cambridge Dragoner Regiment of the Hanoverian Army, Prince Adolphus's legacy endures through history. The march of the Hanoverian Cambridge Dragoner Regiment remains an integral part of the traditional music repertoire, while their barrack stood as a testament to his enduring influence until 1995. In the wake of the tragic passing of Princess Charlotte in 1817, a solemn duty fell upon the Duke of Cambridge. His task was no ordinary one: to find a suitable bride for his elder, yet unmarried brother, the Duke of Clarence, who would later ascend to the throne as William IV. The urgency lay in securing heirs for the throne, as Charlotte had been the sole legitimate grandchild of King George III, despite the monarch having a dozen surviving children. Amidst a series of promising, but ultimately fruitless attempts, the Duke of Clarence finally fixed his gaze upon Princess Adelaide of Saxe-Meiningen. With this union, the path was cleared for the Duke of Cambridge to embark on his own quest for love. On a fateful day in history, the Duke of Cambridge exchanged vows not once, but twice. The first ceremony took place in Castle, Hesse, on the 7th of May. The grandeur continued as the couple sealed their love in a second ceremony at the opulent Buckingham Palace on the 1st of June 1818. His chosen bride was none other than Augusta, his second cousin and the third daughter of Prince Frederick of Hesse. But Prince Adolphus's life was not solely marked by romance, he also held a prestigious position. And from 1816 to 1837, he served as a viceroy of the Kingdom of Hanover on behalf of his elder brothers, George and William. This role placed him in the position of great responsibility and influence. However, the course of history took an unexpected turn with the ascent of his niece, Queen Victoria, to the British throne on the 20th of June 1837. This momentous event marked the end of the 122-year union between the crowns of the United Kingdom and Hanover, owing to Hanover's adherence to Salic law. Consequently, the Duke of Cambridge's tenure as viceroy came to a close, and he returned to his homeland. His life's tapestry unfolded. The Duke of Cambridge reached the final chapter. On the 8th of July 1850, he took his last breath at Cambridge House, a stately residence on Piccadilly in London. His resting place was a specially constructed extension to St Anne's Church in Kew. Years later, in 1889, the Duchess joined him in eternal slumber, resting by his side. In 1930, their remains were solemnly transferred to the hallowed grounds at St George's Chapel in Windsor Castle, where they found their final resting place. The legacy of the Duke of Cambridge lived on through his only son, Prince George, who would succeed to his esteemed peerages, ensuring that the story of this remarkable royal family endured through the annals of time. Welcome to Past People. To support these videos, please subscribe. The life of Prince Frederick, the son of King George III. Prince Frederick, the Duke of York and Albany, was born on the 16th of August 1763 at St James's Palace. He was the second child of King George III and Queen Charlotte. At just 6 months old, his father appointed him as the Prince Bishop of Lower Saxony, a bishopric in the Duchy of Brunswick-Lunenburg. This place had a unique arrangement where it was ruled alternatively by the Catholic bishop and a Protestant bishop. Given that Frederick's father was also the elective of Hanover, he had the privilege of choosing the occupant. In 1767, Frederick was honoured as a Knight of the Most Honourable Order of the Bath, and in 1771 he became a Knight of the Garter. His upbringing and education took place alongside his elder brother at Kew Palace, under the guidance of Robert Darcy, the 4th Earl of Holderness, as their governor, and William Markham, Bishop of Chester, as their chief tutor. Later, Richard Hurd, Bishop of Worcester, took over as chief tutor. Frederick's education was rigorous, including subjects like riding and fencing. In 1780, it was decided that Frederick would pursue a military career, and he was commissioned as a colonel. He was sent to Hanover from 1781 to 1787 for military training, supervised by Lieutenant Colonel Robert Fulk Gravel. During this time, Frederick participated in manoeuvres and attended the University of Göttingen, alongside his brothers Edward, Ernest Augustus, and Adolphus. In 1784, Frederick attained the rank of colonel. On the 27th of November 1784, Frederick was elevated to the title of Duke of York and Albany and Earl of Ulster. He also became a member of the Privy Council in 1787 upon his return to England, subsequently taking a seat in the House of Lords. When his father's mental health deteriorated and the Regency Bill was proposed, Frederick strongly opposed it. In 1791, he married Princess Frederica, Charlotte of Prussia, in Charlottenburg Palace, with a second wedding ceremony held at Buckingham Palace later that year. Unfortunately, their marriage was troubled, marked by Frederick's infidelity, and they were unable to have children. In 1794 they separated amicably and did not cause any scandals together. In 1793 Frederick was promoted to full general, a significant year as it marked the beginning of the Flanders campaign. This coalition of military forces aimed to invade France and halt the rise of the First French Republic under Napoleon's leadership. Frederick led the British forces during this campaign, experiencing both victories and defeats. However, in 1795 he was recalled to England, and the coalition eventually had to withdraw. The Battle of Tourcoing in 1795 led to the creation of a famous nursery rhyme inspired by Frederick's defeat. In the recognition of his military leadership, Frederick was promoted to Field Marshal and became the Commander-in-Chief of the forces of Great Britain and Ireland in 1795. He initiated several reforms in the British Army and in 1801 founded the Royal Military College in Sandhurst, a renowned institution for the training of infantry and cavalry officers. His contributions to the British military continued to shape its future. In 1803, Frederick took on the crucial responsibility of preparing the United Kingdom against Napoleon's planned invasion, a significant threat at the time. Thanks to his numerous reforms, the British Army became more robust than ever before, a strength that would prove invaluable in subsequent Peninsular War, ultimately leading to Napoleon's defeat. During this period, Frederick's personal life took a turbulent turn. In 1803, he embarked on an affair with Marianne Clark, which would have lasting repercussions. By 1809, charges were brought against Frederick in the House of Commons by Gulliat Bordel. These charges alleged that Frederick allowed Clark to influence him in the granting of commissions within the British Army. The scandal that ensued was national in scope, particularly when Clark testified that she had sold army commissions with Frederick's knowledge. Despite being acquitted of any direct implications, Frederick chose to resign as Commander-in-Chief of the British Army in 1811. In 1811, due to King George III's deteriorating mental health, Frederick's elder brother George took on the role of Prince Regent. However, this arrangement was temporary, as George III passed away later, leading to George's official accession to the throne. In the midst of these political and personal challenges, Frederick was reappointed as Commander-in-Chief by King George IV on the 29th of May, 1811. In this capacity, Frederick exercised strict impartiality when it came to the officer commissions and promotions, ensuring fairness within the military ranks. In 1870, a significant event occurred when Princess Charlotte of Wales, Frederick's only living legitimate niece, tragically died after delivering a stillborn son. This event triggered a succession crisis, and despite the fact that King George III had 15 children, 12 of whom were still alive at this point, only one, George, had produced a legitimate child, Princess Charlotte of Wales. Unless Frederick's brother had another child, Frederick would be the heir presumptive upon their father's death. This situation prompted Frederick's unmarried brothers to seek brides, although any children born to them would remain behind Frederick in the line of succession. In 1819, Frederick was entrusted with the care of his father, King George III, who was by then blind, deaf, and suffering from dementia. King George III passed away on the 29th of January 1820, leading to Frederick's brother becoming King George IV. Frederick experienced personal loss as well, when his wife passed away on the 6th of August 1820, and despite his widowhood, Frederick never remarried. His life came to an end on the 5th of January 1827 at the age of 63, marking the close of a significant era in British history.